the New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is December 6th, 2013. It is the Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. Joining me here tonight, because this has been a really mellow week. I've been trying to get back into the groove of things after being on the road for 2 weeks. I know it's a little bit confusing, just in case people weren't sure, because I explained this earlier in the week, but perhaps you didn't hear this. When I was on the road, I know it sounded like I was live. I'll let you in on a little secret. I wasn't live. I had prepared the shows. I did about a week and a half's worth of broadcasts off air, and then with the help of Chris Gio, they were uploaded into a queue, I guess you could say, and each night he made sure that the correct one fired off for all of you, and I would double check with him. Normally I'd be able to do it, but because of the crappy internet conditions, Chris Gio came to the rescue, and I have to give him a big round of applause, big thank you, because my JFK specials and stuff wouldn't have gone off at all without his help. So big thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Awesome network over here at Truth Frequency. If you, ladies and gentlemen, ever get a chance to show Truth Frequency some love, feel free to go over to truthfrequencyradio.com, and even if it's only $4 or $5, go ahead and donate. Chris and Cherie are really great people, and they were gracious enough to give me an awesome home, as well as all the other awesome hosts here, and they really do take care of us, so big thanks to them. Anyway, so, yes, when I refer to me being on the road for the past 2 weeks, don't be confused that you might have heard me. I wasn't broadcasting from the road. Rather, I made sure that you all had a week and a half's worth of Kennedy specials with tons and tons of evidence and information. And it was important that I get that stuff out there, but it was also important that I went out to Dallas because I was invited to this conference that Judith Baker put together, and I ended up being the MC of the event, and I got a chance to meet a lot of interesting people. Met Wayne Madsen in person, got a chance to meet Nick Redfern. He's been on the broadcast a few times, met him in person, got a chance to meet his dad. I finally got a chance to meet Judith in person. Just a bunch of different people, Bob Groden. The list could go on and on and on. The point is, not only did I get a chance to meet some of these famous researchers, but I also got a chance to meet a lot of my listeners, and everybody I got a chance to meet was just awesome. Anyway, so if you hear me reference Road Trip or anything and you haven't heard any other shows this week, that's what I'm referencing. Anyway, let me get to it. I want to bring up my guest for the evening so we can hop right into a slew of things, including I want to pick his brain a little bit about some of the things I've already talked about this week, but I want to bring him right up. My good buddy, Mr. Kenneth Webb, a.k.a. Change the Channel. Ken, what's up, brother?
Obama, where you came and you gave without taking. And I sent you away, Obama, when you kissed me and stopped me from shaking.
What's going on, Popeye? Thanks for having me out, brother.
Leave it to the guys at South Park to provide, like, audio gold.
Exactly. You know, I thought you were alive, honestly. You know, the whole week for JFK, you know, I was sitting there, I totally thought you were alive. I did not know.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm like magic. Yeah, I was so exhausted by the end because I was doing my regular show, and then I was doing like another 2 hours of show off air. And for people that understand, it's way easier when the show is live to do it because it's being recorded already. Chris's server is recording everything. You know, it's just Ken and I flowing naturally, whatever. And normally that stuff, bam, you blink and the show is over, which will happen tonight. We'll blink and I guarantee you'll be like, holy crap, it's already midnight, right? Over here on the East Coast. For those of you listening on the West Coast and say, it's not midnight over here, just saying. Okay, anyway, it'll go by that fast. When you're like recording a show by yourself off air, it goes much slower. And it takes a lot more time because it's just different. When you're live, your brain is, in a different mode as a broadcaster, as opposed to when you're doing a pre-recorded show. And it doesn't matter how many times you try to convince yourself, no, pretend you're live.
Right.
You're not live, and you know it, dude.
You can't. You're like, that didn't come out right.
Exactly, and you go back and you end up re-recording things. And editing is what takes the most time.
Mm-hmm.
And me, like, if I do an off-air interview, like when I interviewed Beverly Oliver, it was over the phone. So I recorded it, right? But she was a JFK assassination witness. So when I interviewed her, I have to go back and listen to the interview in real time. I can't fast forward and stuff because maybe there's something that, you know, like someone knocked on their door. Sometimes they get another phone call and they have to switch the line over. Whatever the case may be, you edit that stuff out, right? Well, you have to go back and listen in real time because you don't want to miss that little 5-second piece because that's always the thing that you end up hating, right? I should have edited that out. So that's what takes the most time. You have to go back and listen to the whole interview all over again in real time. And dude, anybody that knows me knows that I am the king of doing, like, you know, Charlotte Iserby will tell me, she'll be like, okay, Pop, I have like an hour. And 2.5 hours later, I'll be like, Charlotte, didn't you only have an hour? And she's like, yeah, but every time I talk to you, I just can't help it. And it's like that with everyone I interview, dude. Judith Baker, 5-hour interviews I've done with her. I just can't interview anybody, it seems, for under like 2 hours.
I know, and that's the way I would do especially with an hour show. I remember doing interviews on the hour, and you always have so much doing it, like a special, like me and Grease Rig ended up splitting up a 2-day segment on talking about Iraq, things like that. Because after the first one, it's like you only get so far. It's like, oh man, you need more time. You always need more time on those things. And when you're just sitting there just recording, you know, free thought on an interview, and it could go on and on and on. So you always got to break it down into multiple segments and shows. But like you said, it goes back to that editing, and that's what.
That's the beauty of editing, dude. You know, the magic. That's where it takes the most time. Like if I do, like you coming on, right? Say it was the first time I was having you on, and I was going to interview you, right? We weren't friends, we weren't buddies. We was just, you know, first time I'm ever talking to you. Okay, you know, welcome to the show, change the channel, blah blah blah. That's still more natural because we're on air live. I don't have to worry about recording it. It's just a flow. But you know what I mean? Like Chris takes care of all the technical stuff, right? So as a host, you can flow a little better and everything. When you're doing a pre-recorded show, it's way different. So yeah, it ends up taking about, I don't know. I guess it's me. Maybe not for everybody, but because I'm nitpicky and I have a certain standard that each show has to meet, or else I'm very strict with my stuff that way. And I spend about 6 to 8 hours per show, like editing wise, recording it, doing the interview, everything. I spend about 6 to 8 hours per pre-recorded show. So it actually takes me like 3 to 4 times the amount of time to one pre-recorded show.
I can imagine, man, because I can take a 60-second video and I look at it, and what I've gotten in just like with a video now, for broadcasting as far as editing and all of that, I'll take so much time that I'll put into it, but I get to where I can put them out pretty good if it's the same format kind of thing. I'll get used to it, but I'm always looking back and I'm like, man, why didn't I do this, do that, do something else? And I'm like, don't think about it, because the next time you do it, instead of you'll take a 60-second video and you'll take 2 or 3 days sitting there just fine tuning this audio, every single thing. You can really get down into a lot of technical aspects.
I set it up into templates now. So when I do it, I have on my editor, I actually have my video editor broken up into 2 sections in the timeline. And one side of the timeline is for editing radio shows and archives and stuff. And the other side is for, doing regular video editing. And that's how bad it's gotten. I don't even have enough room in my video editor.
Man, when I don't do a certain series for a while, like I've just ran into that. Yesterday, I was sitting there thinking, like, man, I'm going to do a new message from the elite, right? And I was going to, and this is just all cuts from like presidents, politicians, and stuff that put this message together that, as I see the puppet masters, message being. And I started putting that thing together, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that this takes so long. And I was just like, no way I'm going to be able to do this in a day. I'm going to have to work on this a little bit by a little bit, because I go from word to word, each word up a sentence. So it'd take you, 30 minutes to 45 minutes to actually find the clips from a bunch of different presidents, Johnson and Nixon, and like all these different people saying one specific word to chop it together. And about 45 minutes it took for just a little intro sentence. I was like, oh man, I forgot how long it takes to do this kind of thing.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you start to nitpick, like when I put together the one show I did with all the evidence, I was pulling I had all different sorts of audio and stuff, and I wanted to make sure it all flowed and sounded proper. Like some people just don't, they don't care, which is fine. I mean, to each their own. But to me, what started it was actually one of my first interviews I ever did. My first pre-recorded interviews I ever did was with Judith Baker. I had done a few others, but this was years and years and years ago. And after I listened to it, after I had edited it up, I aired it, and there were a few things that I didn't like, and it irritated me to the point where I ended up making sure that I set up a template so that none of the things that pissed me off ever happen again. Because what I realized I was going to do is I would do it once, but then I might start to forget something here and there. So I set up a template so that way I kind of keep a rigid standard.
Right. Sound too is a lot on that. I noticed that just like doing videos and stuff like that is if you do a series, how the audio can change. Like, I changed the audio to this, or I changed this. I had my EQ set on this, whatever it is. A lot of times on the audio for your voice, I noticed that, to try to keep a series together, you have to keep a template, where you can keep the different settings for the audio so it sounds exactly the same.
Dude, I'll have like 15 different tracks where like the one track is just for me talking so that audio is always the same. And then I'll have like a track for like maybe there's a clip I want to use, but that clip is a different sound level than another clip. So I always try to make I even the levels out and stuff, because there's like I don't know. That's not OCD. It's just a pet peeve of mine if someone does crappy audio editing. Mm-hmm. Just something, and video editing too. It's just the way I am. And I'm not some award-winning editor or director or anything. It's just the way I am. Anyway, I want to pick your brain about something. Did you happen to hear when Johnny and I were on the other night and I was talking about my experience at the USS Alabama?
I didn't catch that part.
Okay, the Alabama is a ship. I'll go over this really quick and then we'll move on to a few other things, but like important issues, because I'm sure the listeners are probably tired of hearing about this. But the USS Alabama, World War II battleship. I stopped on the way back from Dallas. I had wanted to see it, and I wanted, you know how we are. Men are like grown children when you get around something like that. So I wanted to just go, explore it. So it said on their website, long story short, retired military get in for free. So I didn't even expect to get in for free, but I just asked at the front, where you get the tickets to get in. I said, do you guys give a disabled veterans discount? And the woman was just very rude and bitchy when she answered me the way she did. And she was like, no. And I said, really? You guys don't give a disabled veterans discount? I said, it says on your website you give the discount. And she said, well, we give a discount to retired military if you have the retired card or if you're active duty. I said, so if you couldn't do your full 20 years because you got your leg blown off, you don't count? Because now it wasn't about me. Now I was pissed because I was like, that's a pretty effed up policy. Mm-hmm. And she embarrassed me like in front of this line of people with the way she was bitchy to me. So I didn't want to get too combative because I was on vacation, but I got combative enough to ask her 20 questions and get enough info to shame them on air. So the other night I was talking about this, and I said everybody should go to the USS Alabama website, go to the contact page, and email them. Be professional. Don't be rude. But be professional, tell them that their policy is messed up. I mean, it's a war memorial, and disabled veterans don't even get they let active duty or people that did their full 20 get in for free. But disabled vets don't even get a discount. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Mm-mm. So I was kind of irritated about it, and I don't know. It wasn't really about me. I just thought about how do you think that these young, like if I felt that way, how do you think these younger guys that don't have the advantage of having the perspective I do because of my age, right, the wisdom I have, how do these younger guys feel when they go and deal with something like that? I mean, they always say, "Oh, we're for the troops." I'll bet you that woman that was rude to me. I bet you she had a "I support the troops" bumper sticker on her car.
Mm-hmm, didn't act like that.
So it's all that's all fake anyway. That whole thing. But the "I support the troops," whatever, you blow it out your ass. You probably don't. You're just doing that for face value. But the point is, I was irritated about it. So I just thought it was messed up. Oh, and the other thing. Was I said, well, you don't give 100% disabled vets a discount at all? I mean, I said, because I'm 100%. I showed her my ID, and she goes, maybe, or no, she said, maybe if you were in a wheelchair. That's what she said to me.
What?
Which Johnny pointed out accurately was pretty much her saying she didn't believe me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because I walk, and I actually experience that a lot. I get people that they give me nasty looks if I park in a handicapped spot. Because I have a permanent handicap tag, not a temp one, a permanent one. And my right leg is messed up. Anybody that knows me knows that. I'm having surgery in 2 weeks to rebuild my right ankle again, a second time, right? So, anybody that knows me knows that I do have these disabilities. But because I'm young and I can walk on my 2 feet, I don't have to be in a wheelchair all the time. I get the look, or the attitude. And that's what she meant. So I was just irritated about it. So, it's not a big deal, whatever. It's not really about me. It's about their policy overall that sucks. But as a veteran yourself, okay, as a father of an active duty member of the military, how do you feel about that retarded policy, Ken?
Oh, it's ridiculous, man. And it just makes me so sick. I mean, it really does, because, like you said, they always play I support the troops, and that's why the majority of homeless people are veterans, and but that doesn't even make any sense. How that we could make a big stink about it, Popeye, no doubt about that, and get that changed. I don't think all you got to do is call people out on it, contact them, say, hey, get a veteran groups out there to make the call. And start doing a little uproar, because it's wrong to start with, and whoever came up with that policy is that's just messed up anyway. And plus the way the lady acted, because it's on her. I'm sure she's not a stickler out there, but
Well, no, it's just a retarded policy. But her personal. Well, she realized that she kind of overstepped her boundaries. You could tell.
Well, she might have been just like that, because if I'm sitting there working, policy or no policy, you're not going to let a disabled veteran come through free. It's not like you got to pay $1 million to get on there to start with, but you're not.
Well, no, they do charge $15 to get in, but this is what kills me. There was Korean War vets there. There was a couple old World War II vets there. Did you charge them? Because I'm sure some of those guys didn't do full 20 years. I'm sure they got out after the end of the Korean War. Did you charge them full price to get in and see that museum? You charged a Korean War veteran $15? To get in to see a wartime museum? What is wrong with you people?
No, you can't let it. I don't care. Veteran, no veteran, been in for 2 days, 1 day. all the military soldiers should be able to get on there and
Well, that's
for
what I'm
free.
saying. Like,
I mean, come on.
It's not about. That's why I say it's not about me. Like, I could care less. Like, it's not about. I mean, yeah, my experience. I'm trying to use it to help other people, but like, it's not about emailing them or writing them and be like, well, Popeye couldn't get on. No, it's like think about it. Like, how many thousands, if not more, veterans have gone there and been like, really? You really? Like, I lost my leg, and really? You don't give me a discount? I mean, I don't know. It
You
just
should
goes
be able
to,
to get on for free. I mean, that is the only logic behind it.
and don't get me wrong, I don't, my legs are still attached. One of them doesn't really work too well, but it's still attached. So I'm not trying to bitch and say that, oh, poor me. It's not that. It's just their policy does not make
No, it's a
any
general principle. It's the general
Yeah.
principle of the thing. No way. I don't even care if you signed up. You ain't even been to basic yet. You ain't even been to boot camp, any of that stuff. You ain't even did it yet. You signed up, man. You should get into any kind of memorial, any kind of museum, as far as, especially for military stuff. That it don't make no sense.
Yeah, like,
not to let
I mean, I get, like, I don't think military people should get, like, free movie tickets or anything. Like, whatever. I understand.
No. But I mean, in an actual military.
No,
museum
military. No, I know what
setting.
you mean. Any military museum, if you're active duty veteran or whatever, or full, 20 retired, whatever, I think that you should have free access to the museum if it's a wartime or history museum like that. It's just,
Right.
you know what I mean? And people can get, you can debate me all you want. Say, oh, you veterans want welfare whores, you want special treatment. No, it's not that. And maybe you wouldn't understand if you're not a vet, I guess. And whatever. I'm sorry if you don't, and you get all irritated by this conversation for 5 minutes. But too bad. It's something that pissed me off. And again, it's not about me. It's about I sat and thought about how many other people had to go through that. And some of these guys that, like, Korean War vets or World War II vets or Vietnam vets or the younger generation of vets like that, I belong to, I don't know. There's no way to explain how that makes you feel. So I know how it pissed me off, and I just, I wanted to let everybody know that I think that the USS Alabama's policy is, messed up in regards to how they treat veterans and disabled vets. But anyway, there's a ton of other things to go over. You can go check it out. It's ussalabama.com. Go to the contact page. The email is there. Again, if you're going to contact them, be professional. Contact veterans groups if you are a member of any veterans groups. If you know people in the VFW, DAV, any of these other veterans groups, get them on board with this too. I don't think any veteran at all, again, should have to pay entrance into a museum about the war. And I just think it's where's the money go? I know the ship needs upkeep, but I mean, a lot of the upkeep on the ship there's donors, and there were big donors that donated time and money and tools and other stuff. So, where is all the money going? Is it being spent properly? I mean, they charge the merchandise prices is super high. So I mean, I don't think it's going to break the bank if they give veterans discounts or free entry, is what I'm saying. Anyway, I want to move on to a few other things. So, while I was gone, because, I was unplugged for about 2 weeks, it was kind of nice, by the way. I've heard you and Grease Rig talk about unplugging.
Pause for the calls, brother. Pause for the calls.
Man, I got to tell you what, it was like, like, as frustrating as it was, like, the first day, after about 2 hours, I was actually like, what computer? My laptop died. So it's not like I really had too much of an option in it. But once I was kind of forced to deal with it, and I was only able to get on sporadically here and there, it was actually kind of nice because it was like getting rid of an electronic leash.
Mm-hmm.
It really was.
Yeah, and the brain fried too. It's like, I've been through that multiple times where it's like, I decided I'm not going to get on. I'm not going to do nothing for a little. I'm just going to take a pause for the calls, and I'm going to just, I'm going to unplug. And like you said, the first day you just got almost like jitters or something. What's going on? I know they up to something. They're scheming and scamming, plotting and planning all the time. What are they doing? And then after a while, it's really enjoyable to not feel your conscious mind with all of that, just to take a break, give your mind a break, and then little things come to you along the way that you just think about that you hadn't had the time to really think about some of those things, putting pieces to the puzzle together, or some little concepts like, okay, when I do go back in, I'll plug back in, I will, these are some of the things I'm going to do. So it's always good for us to do that.
Yeah, and it refreshes your brain too, but it was not, I didn't, I mean, I guess I would have been unplugged somewhat, but the forceful unplugging was good because I had no other option. And it was just nice. I mean, it kind of sucked, but then again, the world didn't end. And you know what I mean? Like, the world did. You have that. I always bust people's balls about that, but at the same time, we all have it in the back of your head, like, oh my God, I got to check the news. Right? And, because what we do, that's part of what we do, right? And you do it for so long.
And you would think that would be the time something goes down, when you're not paying attention,
Well, I mean, I come back and it's funny because I was like, wow, what the hell happened? I come back and there's all sorts of different new things going on. Just interesting things here and there, but it's all in the same fashion. I mean, nothing I didn't expect. People were like, Obama's acting like a dictator. I'm like, okay, what do you do now? Like, right. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, he hasn't been acting like a dictator 2 weeks ago. I don't know. It was just a different perspective because I've been plugged in, so doing this so many years without a break. That and it wasn't really a break because I was working a good portion of it, like the first 5 or 6 days that I was on the road. But still, even I had about 3.5, 4 days to myself, and that was enough to be like, Goose Fraba. I needed it. Anyway, break sneaking up. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We get back. I'm going to pick Ken's brain about the ever-growing police state. Ugh, it's one thing I noticed when I was out. Talk about it when we get back. Don't go anywhere. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. So, going into break, I had mentioned Dictator Obozo. I have said before that he is not the top of the food chain, and I do not think he is. It doesn't mean his ego wouldn't get in the way and make him, think that he could be actually the top of the food chain to a certain degree. But again, I don't think his dictatorial actions are all about his goals. I think it's about his master's goals, and he realizes that a lot of those same interests that they have, he has. Meaning, if they go down, he goes down. So it only behooves him to CYA. And you are seeing the Chicago style of politics being brought to Washington, D.C. Not that Washington was ever a clean place. It's not like Washington was a Vestal Virgin, and then in comes the rowdy bunch and just started raping everything. That's not really what's going on. They're just bringing their own political twist to the garbage that was already there. Anyway, so Tyrant Obama. Is that fair to call him a tyrant? Well, I would say so. Perhaps a dictator, not a benevolent one. I mean, if you sit and you actually look at the amount of crimes that his administration has been engaged in, and yes, real crimes. When you violate the Constitution, that is a crime. It's unconstitutional. You're actually violating the highest law in the land. Okay, not some retarded statute that your town, city, or county might have, or even state might have put in, but actually the Constitution, which is supposed to be the basis of everything in this country. It's supposed to be the basis of the law, of everything that we do, right? The Constitution. How many times has his administration violated the Constitution? How many times? How many? And how many times, when you bring it up, there will be one of his defenders. I mean, the people that follow him to this day just kill me, because they will defend his actions. Anything he does not matter. It does not matter. There was a guy on ESPN the other night, or an ESPN commentator on, I think it was CNN, And the other day, like CNN's a real network anyway, they're a joke. But he was on there and he said, it was either CNN or MSNBC. Anyway, he said that basically, yeah, Obama lied about Obamacare and about being able to keep your own healthcare policy if you liked it. But all politicians lie, and it's just which lies you can live with. And it's okay that Obama lied to us because he honestly only lied to us out of our best interests. So he had our best interest at heart when he was lying to us because they know better than us. So, it's okay that he lied to us. Now, think about it if this were Bush or anybody else. There would have been people in the streets screaming at the tops of their lungs. Screaming. But this guy just gets away with it because there's a certain sect of the public that is delusional, and the other part of it is the media doesn't hold him accountable. And if you can't tell that by now, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't tell that the mainstream media is not really the media anymore. In fact, we should stop referring to them as the mainstream media, and we should just refer to them as the propaganda machine.
The mainstream media.
Well, that's what we should refer to them as. I mean, they're propagandists. Dude, when was the last time you saw an actual piece of reporting? Right?
Exactly. It's just public relations. Definitely.
Ugh. I mean, dude, look at what happens when the administration does anything. Even if, Fox News might attack it, but they're controlled too. They're the opposite side of the coin, the controlled opposition. They switch places because they used to do the same thing when Bush was in office. They defended everything he did. But you watch these pieces, and it's not like you have these news anchors not being news anchors. You have the news anchors taking up a position and fighting a position. It's like, hold up. I thought you were supposed to be an independent party, and you were supposed to report the news. You weren't supposed to defend a position in the news. That's not your job as a news commentator. But yet that's the way all of this stuff is positioned, and they do that on purpose. They know how to frame the argument because for the general audience's entertainment, we'll say. You know what I mean? And the general audience doesn't know what's being done. They don't understand logical fallacies. They don't understand any of that stuff. They don't understand rhetoric and debate and logic and stuff like that. They don't understand these basic concepts. And then they, like things like the trivium, they don't understand. You have to understand that in order to see what's, to be able to realize and see with your own two eyes what's going on. Because as soon as you understand logical debate and how a real argument should be constructed and stuff, you'll realize why they construct the news the way they do. And they'll bring someone. You notice they always bring someone on and it's in a very adversarial tone. Mm-hmm. I've never had one guest on my show in an adversarial tone. Ever. Doesn't mean I agree with everything my guests say. I've had guests on before where I've debated them on certain subjects, but I do so politely and professionally, and I don't attack them, and I don't have a stance if I do ask a question. You know what I mean? I might have a personal stance on something, but I don't ask a question based from that stance. You know what I mean? And these people, they're not news media anymore. They're a joke. Why do you think everybody's going to the alternative media? I think people tune into us because they want the truth. And I don't have any corporate interests. People can think I make all the money in the world. That's fine. I don't. I don't make a dime off doing this. Ken doesn't make a dime off doing anything he does. None of us do. Chris Gio and Shree don't make money off doing this. You have to remember, what he does is he offers us a huge network. So that costs him money out of his pocket. So any money that is made, which isn't much, but anything that is made goes to the network. So nobody's balling here. Nobody's driving, a blinged out Ferrari and has a house in the hills with 10 bedrooms. You're not going to see any of us on cribs anytime soon. Okay? I promise you that. We don't have an agenda. Oh, well, I guess we do. My agenda is freedom. That's it. Total freedom for everybody. And the only way we're going to have that is if we have total informational awareness. And that means us telling you, hey, you need to pay attention. And by the way, Ken doesn't tell you what to think, and neither do I. We just tell you what's going on, and we urge you to educate yourselves, because that is the only true way that you will be able to get through the crap.
Exactly, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to. I don't want to not know the truth, and they're not. I mean, we all have egos and everything in us, but I mean, I'm not egotistical, to the degree that I don't want to know the truth, and I don't want to know what's really going on. So if I'm ever wrong about anything, I always want people to tell me that I'm wrong, just straight up, and properly educate me on whatever it is that I'm wrong about. I got no problems with that.
Dude, the mainstream media is done for. There's no other way to put it. They understand it. Why do you think they're going to live streaming and they're changing their format? Look at CNN. Zucker's changing the whole format to be more like the History Channel and like reality TV-ish. Why do you think they're doing that? Because that's their way of responding and trying to change to the times. Right now, of course, they're also trying to change the way news, quote unquote, news is brought to people, because there is a large segment of the public that believes in the reality TV thing, and that it is really reality TV when none of that is reality. That's the illusion of it all. Reality TV.
But check those things out too. When you see them sometimes,
dude, I've been on them.
It's no way, way.
I've been on them. I've been taped for one, so I know what goes on behind the scenes. I was taped for Miami Ink a very long time ago, years ago. I know the guys that own that shop. It's not called Miami Ink. It's called Love Hate. But I know those guys from before when they were on TV. And I was filmed for like 4.5 hours for one of the episodes. Okay? And it is the most annoying thing in the world, because the producers come over and make you stop mid-conversation and make you change the conversation depending on what you're talking about. Or if you bring up a company name or something, they'll tell you, oh, you can't mention that company name. And then they'll ask you to, can you say that and start that sentence over again? Just don't use that company name or whatever. Change it to something else. Or, like if I said, oh, I was drinking a Coca-Cola, they might not have the rights to say that, right? So they'll say, oh, can you change it to like I was drinking a beverage or drinking a soft drink or whatever. But they make you change. I mean, they do little things like that. So none of this is really reality. And by the way, newsflash, all those shows that you see where people are drinking and getting drunk and getting in fights, that's all, a lot of that drama is fake. It's all done for video and for TV and for ratings.
And it's no doubt. I mean, I've seen that on YouTube. Right.
But the drinking is part of their contract. That's what I wanted to throw out there. I know somebody else that was on one of these reality shows, the biggest, whatever, baddest girls or whatever the hell it was, and in the contract, it was right in the contract that they had to drink a certain amount of alcohol. So, I mean, the producers and the people that run the show obviously are older, right, and wiser, right, to a certain degree. Maybe not some of the producers, because sometimes they have younger kids doing it, but a lot of the people in the upper echelon, they're older and wiser, and they realize if they make young people stay in a house where there's raging hormones and you keep injecting a certain amount of alcohol and then inject 15 minutes of faux fame, what do you think's going to happen?
Exactly. Man, I'm telling you, when YouTube first started and it was all vloggers who would come on, there was a girl on there who was supposed to be 15 years old. And she was like, I was in the YouTube underground at the time. So we were totally anti any of the people that YouTube were blowing up at the time. And, but there was this girl that was out there and people started watching her, and she was like vlogging from her bedroom. She's sitting in her bedroom, and she had this boyfriend, and he had his own little YouTube channel called Daniel Beast, right? And her name was Lonely Girl 15, and all these people started watching her vlogs like it was a soap opera and everything. And so she was always on the #1 most watched of the day, and she would go through a storyline. And people like in YouTube underground at the time was like the people who were like totally against the whole direction YouTube was going, all this kind of stuff. Anyhow, but they said, look at the lighting. Look at the lighting of this room. Look at the quality of the film. There's no way that this is a little camera sitting up on top of your your screen and everything. And then, it went on for like a year and a half. And then come to find out at the end, they did this big release, excuse me, where they came out and did this big media stunt where they said, the whole thing was, a production company doing it and all this stuff. And they had all of this crazy satanic stuff in the backgrounds hanging on the wall because her parents were religious, but she never said the religion. I don't know the whole story. I just caught it like after it really came out. And I was like, I knew that thing was just phony. The whole thing was just phony. And so many people, even after that came out, would be sitting on YouTube talking about how, that's BS, that's real stuff and all of this. And it was like a wrestling match. It's like, at the time I did a group real TV kind of thing. I did Warehouse America. That was the first show that I put on. And when I lived at a warehouse, about 30 other heads. And, we had buses run on vegetable oil. We had a sound system. We did events, benefits, all these kinds of things through music and art and all these things. And I would do, I do hidden kitchen cams, catch people stealing food out of the refrigerator. That was all real. Now, that was one real deal. But the rest of these things that you see, man, it's just like, nah, I don't buy it. You can tell, And if nothing else, at least they're playing for the cameras. They know the cameras are there, so therefore they're definitely performing.
You hear, see now, mini CDC in the background. Now that's reality.
He's wide open tonight. He's wide open.
That's reality.
He's got to be in the room because if he ain't in the room, he was in the other room earlier and he was just going off. He's protesting big time. So he had to come back here with Daddy. So finally, he had to sit in my lap for a little while, and then I kind of put him on the floor and got his brother in here with him and playing. And as long as he can be in the room, he seems to be okay, except he's bouncing on the bed like a wild man.
We see now that's unscripted and raw. That's reality, not this crap you see on TV.
Yo,
it's just, dude. You're right. The stuff on TV is canned garbage. I mean, I can tell you, I can attest to it myself. They used to approach my wife. I think it's at least 3 or 4 times. She was approached by different producers and other people that we knew. That were connected to the show. Oh, you should come on, let us shoot an episode, blah, 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 blah. I mean, a lot of the stories that you would, and I'm not bashing just one show individual. I mean, all these reality shows are like that. They wouldn't be on television if they weren't scripted. You understand, reality in real life is boring. Do you know how boring it is at a tattoo shop? Like 50% of the time, at least. Everybody, when I used to work at a tattoo shop, people would be like, "Oh my God, you guys must be like, as if it was like a mix between a bar and a strip club, and there were, hookers that would rain down from the ceiling 24 hours a day or something." You know what I mean? No. I mean, there are times you sit in a tattoo shop and nobody comes in to get tattooed, nothing goes on, and then there are times that it's like a cross between a bar, strip club, and a tattoo shop. You know what I mean? It is like that.
And you look at like Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, which I love the show, and I know it's productioned out and all this, but that's the one thing that you would catch people saying like against a show like that is they show like he's meeting somebody, he's flown out, right, and he's going in this airplane hangar, right, and the camera's on the inside of the hangar and the door opens and it's more like a recreation kind of thing. And that's a lot of that tries to tell a story. But on that one, I'm like, don't do that because people are going to say something about you. Just had the camera sitting in this hangar where you just supposedly landed and you're walking in to meet this person in this hangar who wanted to meet in secret, And, but they had the camera on the inside. What are you doing?
He's mad about Obamacare. He's like, I've had it.
Oh, no.
I just absolutely
Celebrate good Obama, come on!
Oh, he wants to push the buttons. He's a computer freak.
Do you have a soundboard like literally set up on the fly, waiting to go?
Oh yeah. It's in. I have I have a bunch of different ones that I can put on. All right, now y'all knock the lights down.
Where's Bruce at? I didn't hear Bruce tonight.
Bruce is indisposed at the time in the other room, or it might be on the floor because he got my phone, and I got Bruce on my phone that I carry around with me.
Poor Ken's been totally derailed by his two kids. I absolutely love it.
Renegading the spot in here.
They're trying to steal the show tonight is what's going on. They just want to be future radio show host and filmmaker. The two of them. They'll make their own little production crew. At least
I got him there, though. See, you hand him the iPhone, and he's right in it, and he's done for now.
Did you ever see there's a video a guy put out? You could probably find it on YouTube still. Well, maybe not. I'm sure you never know what the way YouTube is. But it was called, "Thank You, YouTube, for rewiring my kids' OS." Or not YouTube. "Thank you, Apple, for rewiring my kids' OS." The kid was, I don't know, the kid was like 6, 7 months old. And you know how when we were babies, we'd play with magazines and we'd grab the pages and crinkle them and look at the colors. And you ever see a kid touching a magazine? It's like, you know, like you could see their little mind is discovering things. It's cool. Well, his kid had played with an Apple iPad, and they were like opening and closing their hand. You shrink it and zoom in and all that garbage, right? Well, that's how the kid figured. Kids are smart, and she figured out how to operate the iPad really quick. Well, he took he's videoing. She's playing with the iPad, zooming in, zooming out, opening, closing different applications or whatever. And he takes it away and he gives her a magazine, and she's doing the same movements with her hands on the magazine, but the pages aren't doing anything.
Right. Any children, I saw an article, any children like, under 2 years old, they shouldn't have that much time on it because of the mechanical reasoning and all of that. They need to have time to, and that's what I do with him too, because he always wants a computer. He wants the iPhone. My youngest one, and he's like that, but I have to take time to give the mechanical reasoning and take him away from that, not give him too much of that kind of stuff. Because I did see, and it does make total sense of like, picking stuff up, blocks, building blocks, doing anything like that. Like you said, turning pages in the magazine, they're trying to delete alt, and all this. Ain't no telling what they're trying to do, but they're not learning like what they need to learn at that age. But it's not too bad. I don't let him mess with it too much, but because he is a computer head, I've never seen a baby so much into that kind of stuff before, and figuring it out too. So that I have to take it. He gets mad, but I have to take it away to get his mechanical reasoning down. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Different from when we were kids, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it is. I always say, oh, it'd be cool if we had this technology when I was a kid. But then I think about it, and I'm like, wow, we were dicks when we were kids to each other. Like, I can only imagine what it's like to be a teenager with YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Ugh.
Oh man. I can't even. Yeah, I think about that too. A lot of those types of things. Like, man, it can't. And like we talk, and we've said, plenty of times, like a child growing up never knew anything before the Patriot Act. I mean, look at the end of 2001. I mean, how long ago has that been?
There's
12, 13 years.
There's
now.
Entire generations, dude, that don't know. The lady at the post office, I was mailing out copies of Judith's book. By the way, Judith Baker, you've all heard me interview her. I'm selling copies of her book for her. It's not like I bought them from her and I'm trying to make money. I'm doing this, for Judith. I have a couple boxes of books from the 50th anniversary that she signed, and I'm selling them. They're available. Just go to federaljack.com, my website, and up on the header you'll see the store. Click on it, and a little drop-down menu. The second option will be her book. Click on it, it opens the page, and then there's a PayPal button that you can get. And anyway, I was mailing those books out today. I was mailing out, I just mailed out 7 of them. And I was talking to the lady at the post office, and she told me that she knows people. She's met, like, kids and even young adults that have never mailed a letter, ever mailed a letter via the post office. Everything they've ever done has been electronic.
Oh yeah, I knew the email thing was going to. when people really started using email a lot, it's like, wow, man. Sooner or later, the old timers are like, you'll see a lot of people still write checks and everything, and they'll they'll write checks,
Guilty.
like using a card or cash. But
Guilty.
There's not that. Every time I see it, I'm just like, whoa. What are you doing?
I still write checks. I'm not afraid to write checks. I still mail
you
checks
can you can keep up with it a lot better.
I still mail checks in. I'm old school like that, but I don't. I don't know. I use the post office and stuff, but I guess it was for me. It's a trip because I straddle both worlds. I'm of the old enough generation where I remember when there wasn't the internet and there wasn't cell phones and there wasn't beepers or anything like that. And it was, if you had to go learn something, you had to go use the Dewey Decimal System at the library and go through the card catalog. There was no Google or Start Page or whatever search engine you decide to use. There was none of those. None at all. It was you were left up to your own devices, which was pretty much the library. And I remember, when all that stuff did come in. I remember when beepers first came in. I remember when cell phones first came out. And, cell phones, by the way, if nobody realizes this, and I know I'm not saying this is a conspiracy or anything. All I'm saying is cell phones did not become popular the way they are now until right after 9/11, when the myth of the cell phone calls from the airplanes at 30,000 feet being made, when at the time you couldn't make cell phone calls from airplanes at 30,000 feet. But anyway, but besides that, the myth of the cell phone calls are what led to this boom of everybody getting a cell phone, because then it was like, oh my God, terrorists could strike at any moment. Everybody needs a phone, so I know where everybody's at. And that's what led to everybody having these family plans. Go think about it and go back and actually look through history and look when all these family plans and all this stuff started coming out. Literally within 6 months of 9/11 was when the phone companies started, gearing everything up towards the families and everything else, because people were running out and buying cell phones, because one of the stories that was out there, remember, was the cell phones from the airplanes myth. Now, I'm not saying that they made the myth to sell cell phones, or 9/11 happened to sell. Oh my God, Popeye said 9/11 happened so the cell phone companies could sell cell phones. I said nothing of the sort. All I'm saying is cell phones became a device that every family started to have, right after 9/11. Within days, people were buying cell phones. And, I know some people already had pagers and everything, but before that, if you had a beeper or a cell phone and you were a kid or you were younger, you were accused of being a drug dealer. I remember the days when, oh my God, you have a pager, you must be a drug dealer, because that's the only reason why you'd have a beeper. That retarded mentality, which is fed from the stupid war on drugs. Anyway, now there's 6-year-old kids that have their own iPhones, which is a little bit off the chain. But anyway, I digress. The break's coming up. Don't go anywhere. Ken and I will be right back. Who knows? The stars of the show, Ken's 2 children, might even be back. I don't know. All I know is I've been upstaged by 2 kids, and it's all good. The only people that could upstage me and you are your 2 kids, Ken. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is December 6th, 2013, the Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. My first couple days back from being on the road for 2 weeks, doing a road trip to Dallas and back. Stopped in New Orleans for a few days on the way back, just to kind of relax, since I have not had any type of vacation in about 8 years. And I didn't even have a honeymoon when I got married. My wife is a sport. We did not have a honeymoon, so it was kind of like no, it doesn't suffice as one, but it was kind of neat to have a few days off just to relax to myself. And even then, I still wasn't relaxing behind the scenes. I was still doing things, and my wife was like, enough! Anyway, first couple days back, man, tired. Gotta tell you what, road trips kick the crap out of you. But next week I got a bunch of stuff lined up for you. And then, of course, as you've all heard me mention a few times, I will be taking a couple days off the following week, depending. We'll play it by ear to see how I feel because I'm going to be having a slightly major operation done on my my right leg. I'm going to be in a cast, and I'm going to be quite uncomfortable. So I don't think I'm going to want to go on air. In fact, it's a definite I'm probably not going to go on air that night because I'm just not going to feel up to it. I've done that going on air crap after having surgery before, and it ain't fun. And it's not arthroscopic, it's open surgery. So anyway, I'll be taking a few days off because I need the operation. Otherwise, walking is going to be quite a problem, as it already is for me. So this will make my life a little easier. Fingers crossed. I already had this done once. Let's hope I don't have to go through the third time, right? Anyway, so I got a few things that I'm going to put together for you. I interviewed Charlotte Iserby recently about Common Core and about a bunch of stuff that she's going on. So I'll be playing that. I got a couple other interviews I want to air. So I got a couple surprises for you all too. So just stay tuned. Even if I'm not live, I try to put more than just rebroads on for you. Sometimes I have to put a rebroad on, but as you all know, if I'm not live, sometimes I do have a tendency to put on, or more often than not, I have a tendency to put on a pre-recorded show for you all just in case. Anyway, don't forget, by the way, again, signed copies. They're limited edition copies because of the signature and November 22nd, 2013, 50th anniversary editions of Judith's book. It's $30 including shipping, and the money goes to Judith. It helps her print more books, helps her get around and survive because, as you know, it's very cloak and dagger the way she lives. But because of the sales of her book, it's enabled her to take more road trips and actually get back into the U.S., which gives her more visibility, which actually makes her safer. So it's only smarter for her to continue to sell the book and try to get as much publicity. Look what happened to Deborah Jean Palfrey when she said, "No, I'll wait till they take me to we go to court," and everybody kept telling her, "You're not going to get to court. Talk and say what you know now." So publicity helps. Anyway. Get her book. It's an intriguing read. It'll tell you all about weaponized cancer, Lee Harvey Oswald, the JFK assassination, the CIA, and it's an intriguing story. And there's the love story is in there. If you like love stories, it's a good read. Me and Lee by Judith Very Baker. You can get it over at Federal Jack, my site, federaljack.com. Just go to the store tab, click on it. You'll see it says either 4 terabyte hard drive, or underneath it says Judith's book. Click on that, brings up the page with the PayPal button. Enough said. It'll get mailed out in a day or so, and I'm the one mailing them out. So I can guarantee you will get some Federal Jack business cards, and every order gets a free Truth Frequency Radio bumper sticker. I've sold a lot of them the past couple of days. A lot of people are buying them up. A lot of people are telling me they're buying them as Christmas gifts to get for people. So that's pretty cool. If you have a book reader in the family, get it for him. Again, it's not like I'm making millions of dollars off this. I'm doing this for Judith. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing she asked me to do in Dallas, and I said sure. So I brought them back with me. And once they're gone, they're gone. I won't have them forever. It's not like I have a never-ending supply of them. Once these, signed editions from the 50th anniversary conference that we all got together for are gone, they're gone. So, you can still get her book. You can order it from Trine Day, but these are signed, limited, from the 22nd to 50th anniversary edition. So if you want something that was a piece of history, because it was there, we had this conference, which, by the way, I will be playing some of the audio from. Got a chance to hear some great speakers, meet some interesting people, like Billy Celeste's attorney and a few other people. I know people are going, Billy Celeste, who's that? Just go look up Lyndon Johnson. Go watch The Guilty Men. Episode 9 of The Men Who Killed Kennedy, or listen to my broadcast from like a week and a half ago about it.
What do you think about like all this stuff? Because they had a lot of documentaries. I don't know if because you were traveling or whatnot.
Oh, I saw the propaganda.
Oh my goodness, man! It was so like they just the one, even like, did you see the one on the History Channel they did about the conspiracy theorists and how they would just debunk each and every single one, and it was horrible. It was horrible. You figure these people could do a better job at something, but it was just horrible. They even justified. They had more people on these little documentaries about it that were, the debunkers, the ones that were saying like, yeah, well, they talk about the magic bullet. And the guy rationalized it, talking about Connolly he was more to the left at this period when this thing. I'm thinking, man, shut up, man. You really going to sit here and try to sell the magic bullet theory? Really? No way. No way, no way, no way. How about the stand down order? Come on. It was there. It was not protocol. And it's all of these things. It's like you would figure that if you really were going to get into it, you would give a little bit more weight to, some logic of like, you seen the security guy, the Secret Service guy sitting there with his hands up in the air like, what? Going slow, the speed of the vehicle and everything. I mean, come on, man. It's totally against protocol, And they broke down the one I saw that really irked me and made me want to yak the most was the one where they went down through each conspiracy theory. And they were showing the polls about, most people thought it was, most conspiracy theorists think that it was a certain percentage. And they went all the way up. And the top one was a mafia hit. And I'm sitting here like, I could, you know a lot more about it than I do for sure, no doubt, Popeye. But, to me, I'm like, I would imagine there was a bunch of hands in that cookie jar, or they at least benefited from it, but just to go. It was the mafia or it was this, that.
Well, see, that's the thing. They get people to argue it was the CIA, it was the mafia, it was the military, it was this, it was the Cubans, it was the Russians, it was the... No, it was a combination of the members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, people in the military, the CIA, the mafia. It was a joint group of individuals, okay? The mafia has worked with the CIA since at least World War II, okay? So I don't know why this is a big, oh my God, no, the government would never work with the mafia. Of course they do. They're all organized crime. It's all, get real.
I mean, no, in the ATF wouldn't, or the DEA for that matter, work with Mexican drug cartels. They don't work with the bad guys, no.
Well, see, the whole thing, by the way, about the propaganda ministry there, the Ministry of Propaganda, whatever channel you tune into, they'll tell you, CBS, by the way, heavily infiltrated by the CIA. You can go look this up, okay? It's fact. Well, I mean, they all are, but CBS, back in the day, CBS was like heavily infiltrated. You can only imagine now. But they go on, they have their little morning shows, Bob Schaefer and the rest of them. They all go, oh, he looks such a nice old man, right? Wrinkled old bastard. He's such a liar, okay? And I'm not making fun of old people who have wrinkles. I'm starting to get wrinkles. I don't care about that, but he's a prick, okay? They'll go on TV and they'll be like, there's no evidence of a conspiracy whatsoever. There's no evidence to back up these crazy conspiracy theorists. Really? What about the government doing its own investigation, okay?
Church committee, yeah.
No, well, not even the church committee. The Senate Select Committee on Assassinations back in the 70s looked into this. Mm-hmm. They researched this. And you know what they found? They didn't oust anybody. They didn't name names, but they said there's enough evidence to prove that there was a conspiracy to kill Kennedy. They said that.
Exactly.
The 95th, I think it was the 94th or 95th Congress at the time it was in session. You can go look this up. It was in the 70s. Okay? The government investigated this and they said there was evidence of a conspiracy, and yet you turn on the television, especially around the 50th, and what'd you see? There's no evidence ever of a conspiracy. It's all conspiracy theorist conjecture. Excuse me, but that's a lie. It's on record. It's in congressional history that they found that there was enough evidence that they, from going through all, and that was a whitewash in and of itself because they covered up who did it and everything else. Did you catch what they tried to pull with that new book? That they said that the reason they ain't released the all the data on the thing and all this, that it was a Secret Service agent's rifle accidentally shot Kennedy. Of course, in the back of the head. Yeah,
now,
that's
of course,
too.
In the back of the head. Okay, when they had it on, actually at school. As a matter of fact, my stepson, he at school he came home and he was telling us about what they taught him about JFK and all of this. And I was like, and he's fired weapons and everything. And I said, we were sitting here and one of those documentaries is on, and they're sitting there trying to explain, the magic bullet and all of this, and about the way his head went and all of this. And I'm just like, I was like, let's just pause this, for a moment. Let's rewind it. It's a hopper, so you can rewind the thing. And they, I was like, now tell me, without the volume on and the narrator talking, what do you think? Where was this guy shot from? And he just said straight up, he's like, he's to the front. I mean, it makes sense, all of this crap. But they tried to say that he was shot in the back. And I was sitting there thinking, when this book came out, I was like, wow, you read the synopsis of it and everything. It's like, wow, they're really going to have that as the ace in the hole. Like, I could see them declassifying the documents. Was it 2017 or whenever they're supposed to declassify a bunch of the documents or whatever? That it's going to come out that it was a Secret Service agent, and that's the reason why it was all hush hush and all of that. Which is
crap, because that's a lie, and the only reason why they're doing that is because it helps cover up the fact that the Secret Service stood down. You cannot kill the sitting president and get away with it unless the head of the FBI, the head of the Secret Service, and the vice president are in on it. And just so people understand, Lyndon Johnson was a dirty bastard. Okay. Okay. He's got a list of people that died that were connected to him that was including his own sister, Josepha Johnson. People need to go look this up. Okay. Look up how he won his position in the Senate. The Box 13 scandal. I mean, this guy, he was a dirtbag from the door.
I mean, listen to the audio tapes of him talking to McNamara about the Gulf of Tonkin, and it's all BS. And they even openly admit that they don't know,
Did you ever hear the tapes of him talking to Hoover about the Warren Commission? He says, we should get on top of this. They talk about putting their own investigation together because they don't want all these independent investigations running around. And they knew it was being recorded, so they were talking somewhat in code, but you can tell. Those guys were friends. Hoover and LBJ, by the way, were buddies, like good friends, okay? And for Hoover's cooperation in helping cover up JFK's murder, he became head of the FBI for life, meaning he was in charge of the FBI until the day he dropped dead. Okay? They don't do that now. I mean, normally you'll see them change it out, however many years it is. Sometimes they'll retain somebody else, sometimes they won't, whatever. But Hoover was the head of the FBI for life. Okay? Now, why would he just willingly cover up JFK's murder? He didn't like Kennedy. Kennedy was going to get rid of him. He felt Hoover was too old and needed to retire. So he was going to get rid of him they didn't like each other. Okay,
information is gold. You see how he built that agency up himself by taking
Hoover had dirt on everybody.
Exactly. Information, exactly. He didn't like Kennedy. No doubt. But he wouldn't even use that information to expose the people that would do that. He would keep that on them so he would have some kind of barter. That's the thing with everything. The info war is like the biggest thing. If you got, like we look at today with the NSA and just all the crap they're doing to us, all the information they would like to collect on us, know everything we think, everything we do, everything we want, and show us what we desire. Everything based off of the information and the data that they collect. And so information is the key. Anybody who has all the information, in Iraq, the first thing that they bombed, one of the first buildings they bombed was the Ministry of Information because they already had it. Delete that stuff, and we only possess it, therefore, alternative energy, anything that they have.
Why were some of the first buildings raided, the museum buildings?
Oh, no doubt. The history, any information that's out there to gather, and it's the same thing with these agencies. I mean, look at TSA. TSA has grown so much since its inception, and grown more powerful because they're getting more power, they're getting more funding, they're getting more information about things that they can do from all of the think tank groups. All of these, the information is key. I can't stress that enough in talking, because it always seems to come back to that. It's like, how does people save people's lives from information of doing so? Or how all of these things, how can we create this, that, everything that they do is all about information. I mean,
Ken, don't drink that. That's poison. Oh, look, I gave you some information that saved your life. It is. Knowledge is power, dude. They understand this. Why do you think the Vatican's got all that stuff locked up underneath that vault?
Yeah, imagine what these turds, the information they really have. I mean, even declassified government documents do tell a tale a lot, but you got to think all of the things that wasn't written down. I mean, I know they're egotistical to the degree that they document all of their evil actions in some way, shape, form. But just imagine the things that we don't know about, the technologies, the medicines, the cures. There's just so many things out there that we don't know. And that's back to what we were originally talking about the agencies like the FBI and Hoover and everything. He knew, man. He knew you get information on all of these people, it's gold, and they can't do anything to you. They can't stop you. They can't shut you down, because if you do, you got something on them.
The mafia did the same thing to him. See, Hoover was homosexual, and there's nothing. Everybody that listens to my show already knows how I feel. I don't care about anybody's sexual preference. I could give two, craps less. I couldn't give two craps less. Actually, is the proper way to say it. I really don't care. Whatever your sexual preference is, that's your thing. Hoorah! I don't care. But back in the day, that was really taboo. I mean, it's accepted now. It's very, people are very open about it. But back then, it was not. And Hoover's position as head of the FBI would have been in jeopardy had the public found out that he was homosexual. And he messed around with his right-hand man, Clyde Tolson, who worked for him.
What's strange in his position, if you think about it, it's kind of like it reminds me a lot, and I know it's kind of off topic, but of Hitler. I mean, I don't know whether Hitler was gay or whatever, but I know he read Mein Kampf, stuff like that. The women that he did supposedly like in those writings and everything, but it just seemed like he always wanted to be, had to be single. Where like Hoover, he didn't get married either.
Well, like Hoover, again, I mean, he wasn't. I guess the people that knew. I mean, there were people that knew, but it wasn't really publicly known that he was gay. And the mafia knew, and they had pictures of him and Clyde Tolson, and they said to him, "There's no such thing as organized crime, right?" And he said, "Yeah, there's no such thing as organized crime," because he knew that basically they blackmailed him. Either you tell Congress there's no such thing as organized crime, or these pictures get out. So it's testimony. You can even hear the audio of it, of Hoover telling Congress that there's no such thing as organized crime. The mafia doesn't exist. Now we all know it does. And Hoover, I mean, with all the files he had and everybody, he couldn't have been stupid, but they had that on him. And that also goes to show you that there was this level of them dealing with each other behind the scenes and having backroom deals. So, the mafia works with the government all the time. It shouldn't surprise anybody. So, going back to the JFK thing, there was a more than one person involved, you know what I mean? There was a group of individuals involved. And yes, Hoover was involved in covering it up. There's two, you got to look at a conspiracy like 9/11, JFK's assassination, things like that. You got to look at it, at least my way of breaking it down, maybe it's just the way I think, but the way I look at it is I break it down into two events, not one. It's, one event, two parts, I should say. And the first part is the conspiracy to pull the event off and have it happen, right? The players that are involved in that. The second part of the conspiracy is covering it up and making sure it's not linked back to you. And in like that aspect, how could Oswald cover, how would Oswald be able to cover up, LBJ's connections to it? He wouldn't, especially after he was dead. It just doesn't make any sense. Like any of these assassinations, you start to look at these connections that come up, and you look at how it's covered up, and but with the Kennedy assassination, one of the key things is it has to be a lone gunman. Any talk of conspiracy destroys the official government version, because that's why they didn't want that. Everybody was like, oh, they didn't want talk about the Russians doing it, because then it would have started World War III. That you could maybe look at it that way, and some people think that, but I don't think that. I think the reason they didn't want any talk of anybody else other than Oswald doing it was because if there was a group effort of 2 or more people are going to look further into it, and then they'll, without a shadow of a doubt, find these links.
Bush, you're gonna find Bush, CIA, you're gonna find Johnson, you're gonna find. I mean, if you look at how it was pulled off, I mean, we're talking about a lot of different agencies. Maybe not like a huge group of people. I mean, like the Secret Service agents, like he didn't have a clue. He's being pulled off. It's something that he should have been on the back of that car. There's no doubt about that. But not him in particular. But there had to have been the string pullers up there that made that happen, make that route happen, even down to the driver. I kind of think just because of the way the drive, unless it was the police in front of him leading the Kennedy's car, the speeds that they went through there. Because I've seen interviews with Secret Service agents that talked about the protocol and everything. I mean, big, huge.
Well, that's to push the whole. The Secret Service agent accidentally killed him is to push away from the stand down. And I've had Vince Palomera on about this before. He wrote a book called Survivor's Guilt. People should go. You can get it at Trine Day. In fact, I'm going to have Vince on again in the next few weeks. I was going to have him on right before I went to Dallas. I just didn't have enough time. But he's talked. Just go look in my archives, and you'll see. In fact, if you go to the download section and you go to the JFK downloadable section, any of the shows I've done on JFK, I threw in there, and I've interviewed Vince multiple times, and you'll see. I think it was from let's see, it's December now, so like October, like middle to end of October, I think is the last time he was on, somewhere around there, or maybe it was beginning of October. He was on talking about the Secret Service, or maybe it was the end of September. Anyway, he was talking about the Secret Service stand down, and it's just ridiculous because you can even see video as they turn onto Houston, and then they make the next, they go up and make a left on the Elm. But as they turn, they make a right on the Houston. As they're making the right, you see the Secret Service agent get waved off, and he was the guy that was in the back. He would have been in the back of the limo, either riding on the back or running behind it, depending on how slow it was going, to be a human shield. And that would have blocked the shots. And just as they round the corner, you see him get waved off by the head of the detail in the follow-up car. And you see the guy. You could just look up Secret Service JFK assassination. Have you ever seen anything pop out there? The reason why they gave an excuse, even why that even occurred? Oh, there's they'll tell you there was confusion, this, that, the other thing. It is protocol. Their excuses are ridiculous. They come up with any excuse they possibly can. Most of the time, honestly, it's not even addressed. There was never, at least from what I can remember, there was never any public admittance of it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like not on CBS or anything
sign.
like that.
It's a telltale sign. It's
you can see the video of it. Go on YouTube and just look up JFK Secret Service stand down. You'll see the one agent, and he's looking at the follow-up car where the head of the detail is, and he gives it this, what the F is going on? And he does it like 2 or 3 times as the presidential limo is making the right on the Houston, and then it goes up, it makes the fateful left-hand turn on the Elm Street, and and a lot of people don't realize this, but the Zapruder film has been altered. People don't realize this, but the Zapruder
they didn't even release that until
Time Life.
How many years?
Time Life had that film like 3 days. It was in their New York office within 2 or 3 days, getting altered. So the Zapruder film was not the end-all, be-all piece of evidence either that a lot of people think it is. Anyway, break sneaking up on us. We'll be back in a few short minutes. Don't go anywhere. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Man, like I said, beginning of hour 1, 2 hours just flies by when you're having good flow conversation, especially when you're chilling with a good friend of yours like I am tonight. Mr. Kenneth Webb, a.k.a. Change the Channel.
Obama, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Hey, Obama! Hey, Obama!
Dude, I love... Randy, the character that you keep playing the audio from South Park, he is like one of the funniest characters on that show, the father. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'll admit it. South Park's a guilty pleasure of mine. Even when they attack 9/11 truthers, sometimes
I almost stopped watching them after that.
Yeah,
I really did. It kind of irked me. I was like,
well, nobody's perfect, and they are human. They're entitled to their own opinion. Maybe one day they'll pull their heads from their rear ends. But yeah, the other stuff, hey Obama, that stuff, that absolutely kills me. I want to change gears for a second from JFK, and before I forget, because I know I'm going to plug your show really quick when it's on. Tell everybody when you're on.
Ooh, what time do I go on? Monday through Friday. And it is, well, I have to think because I always think as I'm in
I think you're 7 Eastern, so whatever that is Pacific.
7 to 8 Eastern time, right? Because I go on from 6 to 7.
Right.
I always get mixed up on them.
I know because like I'm Eastern, you're like the middle of the country, and the network's based out of the Pacific time zone, so it screws everybody up. I know. Mm-hmm. I do it all. I give my show times on air in Eastern time, and I forget that a lot of the listeners are on the West Coast. They're probably going, "You're not on at 10 o'clock at night, Popeye." Well, I am on the East Coast. you guys, it's like 7 o'clock here. Some of you are still driving home from work, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, Ken's on Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 Eastern, whatever that is. I guess that's 3 hours, so that'd be 4 to 5 Pacific. Check him out. He does a great show. I even tune in as much as I can. Sometimes I fight with my cell phone because usually when you're getting to something interesting is when my cell coverage, like I get into an area where it's like, hi, no bars. And then I'm like, ugh, and then it cuts out and it's such a pain in the butt to anyway. Technology is what it is. But yes, you can listen on your cell phones via TuneIn. I know Chris has a mobile phone app. I know a lot of people are probably going, what happened to the Listen Live page on Federal Jack for Down the Rabbit Hole? I've been playing with it because I came back and...
Mine too, the one you got out there for me. That's the one I'm always advertising, but...
the player disappeared, and I don't know what... I'm having issues with it, so
It's Foxfire because it disappeared on... True Frequency also for me, and it said I needed to install a new Flash player, and I heard some other, just talk around the campfire about being some kind of Foxfire issue, but you might be able to do Chrome. But once I did update the Flash player or whatever, I could pick up the player on True Frequency, but still not on yours for some reason.
Yeah, I don't get it. I got to go in, and Chris and I were looking at it, and there's some sort of... He was saying that he could see the player, and there's some sort of issue. I got to figure out what the hell's going on. I don't know what it is. Of course, if it's not one thing, it's something else, right? But I'm not. I was either put my fist through a computer screen or just deal with it over the course of a few days. And I have the weekend now coming up, so I'll try to dive into it a little further. Chris was trying to help me deal with it the other night. But anyway, the Listen Live pages will be back up and running in full capacity on Federal Jack in the next few days. So any questions, anybody might have been like, oh, what's up with that? I'll figure it out. If I can't do it, I'll get a highly trained group of monkeys to help me figure it out. Either way, we'll get things done. But before I forget, I want to discuss something here, and I know Ken feels the same way. You won't hear me. Let me rephrase this. You won't hear me. Come on, because I've seen it since yesterday. You will not hear me come on air at all in the next few days and say how great Nelson Mandela was. Exactly, and you're not going to hear me come on and memorialize the guy or anything else and give you the propaganda, oh, we freed people and blah, blah, blah. That's why black people in South Africa are like, hey, you should bring apartheid back because we had it better when the apartheid regime was in here. And don't get me wrong, apartheid was, a lot of the policies and a lot of things that were going on were not great. There were people being treated like crap. There was bad stuff going on. But now it's worse. It's almost like going from what Libya was into what we've turned Libya into with bombing the hell out of it and killing Gaddafi and everything else. You don't hear about it. Everybody's like, "Oh, Libya's free now. It's they're a democracy. They're like us. They can go to Starbucks and everything." No, It's not like that at all.
They could probably still go to Starbucks, but it's
Well,
not.
yeah, that's true. They could probably still go to. That was
They're
probably
gonna
one of
get
the.
theirs.
Yeah, that was probably one of the first things.
But
that
you
was built.
said it best during the break, brother. It's like, if they praising him and all of this kind of stuff the way they doing, no way.
Oh yeah, usually when they praise somebody, the guy's usually a dirtbag, and it's usually the opposite of. And so people understand, he was a member of. I guess you would consider him a terrorist, and they were commies, and they killed people. And I'm not saying he's a commie, so he's obviously bad, whatever. But they were like hardcore communists. They were terrorists. They did bombings. They killed innocent people. They had his wife liked to kill kids. Necklacing, and if you're not sure what necklacing is, I've explained this before. It's when they would take a tire and they would fill the inside of the tire with gasoline, light it on fire, and then drop it around your head. And his wife, what was her name, Winnie? She liked to do that to kids. They would kidnap police officers' children and light them on fire with these tires. They would necklace them. It was called. So I will not sit here and blow trumpets for how great of a guy Nelson Mandela was, because he wasn't. He was a dirtbag. And Ken feels the same way.
And the main thing, look at the people praising him. I don't buy it. Ain't nothing but a bunch of BS, man, all day long. No way. They like you said, they give Barack with a crock, Obama, Nobel Peace Prize. Come on, man. That does that say something?
When they
don't
praise
say
you,
anything.
Nowadays, If they praise you, you're a turd. And the only reason why they praised Kennedy on the 50th is because they would have looked bad if they didn't, and they really didn't praise Kennedy too much, right? They really didn't. They did it just enough to kind of touch on the subject, and just as fast as it was there, it was gone. So you don't see. You see, like I said to you during the break, you see guys like Al Gore or Obama getting a Nobel Peace Prize. Then you understand that things are opposite. We live in a bizarro world. White is black, black is white. Up is down, down is up, left is right, right is left. So if you see them patting somebody in the back and going all out the way they're doing with Mandela, he wasn't a great guy. Because if he was a great guy, they wouldn't be talking about him. And that's just the way it is. It might not have been that way in the past, but that's the way it is currently for the state affairs that we live in right now. And Nelson, I'm sorry if anybody gets pissed at me. It doesn't mean, you're racist or you don't like black people. That's the dumbest crap you could ever try to throw at me. Okay, especially if anybody knows my personal life. But that's besides the point. The point is, I have nothing against anybody. Against any race or color or individual. It's about him as a person and what he really did, as opposed to this mythology of who he is. Most people don't even know who he is. I bet somebody on Facebook did this. They took a picture of Morgan Freeman and they put "Rip Nelson Mandela," right? And they threw it up there. And there were people that you could see in the comments that didn't know that it was Morgan Freeman. They thought that was Nelson Mandela. They did that on purpose. Did you see what Paris Hilton tweeted? And this wasn't a joke. She really tweeted. She had to delete it. She tweeted, sorry to see, the loss of Nelson Mandela. Your "I Have a Dream" speech was amazing. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Goodness.
Whose "I Have a Dream" speech? Paris? But these are the people that your kids are taught to be, they're idols, and these are the people that are put on TV as the elites. Even though she's everybody knows that she's an airhead and doesn't probably know 2 + 2 = 4. Of course, not many high school graduates nowadays do. But that's who these people are. They're venerated. And he or she makes it. I mean, obviously it's deleted now, but it was up for a long enough period of time that people retweeted it and took screenshots of it. And I mean, Nelson Mandela, sorry to see you go. Your "I Have a Dream" speech was great. Really? Really?
What that does is passes on stupidity too, because somebody else's, people that follow that crap, is going to be out there repeating that to other people and spreading like just a nasty virus out there spreading around stupidity all day long. This is what these people say to us, man.
I want to say one thing.
We are and always will be
a new world order.
I'm going to say this again.
A new world order.
Justice is over.
Peace
Is over.
This is an historic moment.
The haves and the have-mores
of the power
in our world.
I want you to listen to me.
When we are successful, and we will be.
People have got to know.
It's been a long time coming.
no
Disorder.
no
Conspiracy.
no
Freedom.
If you act recklessly, you will pay a heavy price.
Staying on that path will only lead to
airstrikes,
waterboarding,
War. Mass murder. Unspeakable atrocities.
The mightiest of financial firms.
the elite.
That no nation can stand against.
Will take over
Our way of life.
our world.
Thank you.
Good night.
And bless this new world order.
That's what they got to say.
Rip Nelson Mandela, your I Have a Dream speech was epic. Just, I'm sorry. I mean, on one level, you have people like, oh my God, the guy is great. And on the other level, people don't even know who he is. And yet they're, oh, he's so great. You don't know who he is. You don't even know who you're talking about. Okay? That's why we have the problems we have. Because people are walking around in a daze and you don't know your ass from your elbow. Okay? So it's easy to pull the wool over your eyes. In fact, they don't even have to try to pull the wool over your eyes anymore. They could just lie to you and you're like, okay. Okay. Dancing with the Stars is on, though? Ugh, I saw something the other day. I was at the VA, and when you go into certain areas, like they have waiting room areas or whatever for everybody while you're waiting, and they have TVs up on the wall, and it's like 24-hour pumping out whatever garbage is on, and they had one of these talk shows on, and just the level of retardation of the people that were they were bringing on, like one guy, all these people, they had this 15-minute segment where all these people they were bringing on, it was about how these people ran into famous people in the middle of like New York City, which that's a packed city. And they'd be in the middle of like standing in the food store and they'd realize the person in front of them was, Hugh Jackman or whoever. And they would flip out and then, oh, you got to, take a picture of themselves with them on their cell phone and everything. And it baffles, sometimes it just, I don't know if it baffles me, it just makes me frustrated. I don't even, it just, I look at this and I'm like, really? Who you could pick out these, and dude, honestly, I'm a smart guy and I pay attention to the news and stuff, and I could have picked out maybe one person out of this, 10 or 15 people that they had, picked out in a crowd, all these different celebrities. I didn't even know most of these people, that they were, oh, it's so-and-so from whatever. And I'm like, who? I don't watch TV. I don't know who this person is.
I do that too, man. I do that so much too. Like people like, oh, this person died, or that person died. Even I'm like, who is that? Because I don't know them. I don't really keep up enough with that end of the spectrum. Even in the lines of the spectrums of like what we dig into, like once if you're following one sort of thing, like I put the majority of my time on watching, what they're saying, any kind of documents come out, reading bills and things like that, and following those lines aspects for the majority of my free thinking time. And so a lot of these other things, I just feel like an idiot because, as far as, ignorant towards, knowing what a lot of these people, actors and actresses,
I'm proud to be ignorant in that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No doubt about that. But I always feel it's like I have nothing to lay into the conversation. I don't know what to say.
I'll hijack the conversation and people will look at me and, they'll be talking about something like that. And they'll be like, don't you know who that is? And I'm like, no, I don't care about fluff crap. I care about important things. And I'll be like, do you know who the Secretary of Defense is? And they'll look at me and they'll be like, what?
Well, how about name the 3 branches of government?
Right.
For me? I'd love to hear that one.
Right. I'll be like, who's the vice president? And they just stare at you. Wide-eyed, like deer in headlights. And I'm like, right. So you know all about this actor and all of his movies and what color underwear he wears and his likes and dislikes and all this other crap. But you don't know dick about the people that actually have control over your everyday life right now, as it is. I mean, once you understand how things work and you can pull yourself out of that control mechanism, and like we're all trying to do, but these people, they know, oh my God, I could spot this actor in the middle of New York City, which I could be standing next to like 95% of these people and I wouldn't know. I'd be like, who are you? And when I worked at the tattoo shop, they used to come in, like Lil Wayne came in and I didn't know who he was. He got all mad because I didn't know who he was. And I'm like, I don't listen to your shitty music. It's exactly what I said to him. You should have seen the look on his face. It was like I crushed him. And his posse was hanging out inside, and he tried to like walk out all tough. I was like, whatever, beat it. It was like, I don't care who you are. So your money's just as green as anybody else. It's exactly what I said to him, by the way. Anybody that knows me and knows me from when I worked at the tattoo shop knows about this Lil Wayne story. It's a little more in deep, there's more in depth to it, but the quick nutshell is exactly what I told you. And I had other experiences with these other quote unquote famous people, and they would get like 50% of the time they didn't even want you to like acknowledge who they were, and the other 50% of the time was like, do you know who I am? And I was like, yeah, I don't give a crap. I threw Kate Moss out of my tattoo shop one night. She was all coked up. I was like, get out.
I used to get pictures, man, and I wish that today was back then. I used to work at a photo lab in Sausalito, which is a professional lab, and we did like everything from Rolling Stone magazine and to all of the all the stars all over the place. When they were in shooting this stuff, they would bring their personal party rolls of film in. And that was back, before the digital age took over, And, I had a lot of those same stars that come in, don't know who it is. And then everybody was like, just like, wow, they're asking for you personally to do their film and, develop their film and process their film and do any custom work, whatever. And, I was like, I don't have a clue who they were. And, and then you'd learn who they were, but then you'd see the photographs of what these people would do at their little parties. Oh my goodness. You can't even imagine. I wish I would have made extra copies, and I wish that I would have kept them.
Dude, some of these people,
they do some crazy things. I mean, like things you would think that they would do, like Bohemian Grove. The stories that you've heard, and all of these kinds of things. Like there was one. It was
rich people that have money like this are weird. My wife owns. She does dog walking. She has her own dog walking company. And back in the day when we lived on the beach, we used to live on South Beach when we were younger. And that was exclusively the only thing she did because she made really good money doing it. She had a ton of clients in there. She had a lot. She was like the premier dog walker at a lot of these big end hotels. So when all these rich people and famous people would come in, she'd walk their dogs. And I'm gonna tell you what, dude. I've seen people that had panic rooms built into these, like, they owned maybe like the penthouse of of a hotel, or they had like, a section of rooms or whatever, and in there they'd have panic rooms built in, and the kind of stuff that she would go in to get the dog, and the kind of stuff that she would witness when just going to get the dog and bring the dog out for a walk, she would come back and she would be. Now my wife is not like prude or anything, she's not afraid of anything, she's not shy about anything like that, and she would come back and be like, wow, we lived on South Beach, we saw a lot of stuff, and it was like even she was shocked at some of the things that these people were, and what she witnessed was the tame stuff. I mean, there's stuff like you're talking about, dude. Yeah, they do a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're standing around like Steven Spielberg and all these cats. They're standing around in cocktail dresses and black ties, all this stuff. And then you have like some chicks in the floor with double barrel shotguns stuffed in the mouth and just like performance art kind of stuff, doing all this weird kind of stuff. And I was just like, wow, man. And the thing is they would come into the shop though, and they would specifically ask for people to develop the things, and they would learn who, isn't going to say anything or look at them weird. It's just like, here's some more film, I developed it, blah, 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 give it to them and go on. But it was like the craziest things. The Grateful Dead, all those cats up there. It was in Sausalito, so it's right across Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco and all of that. But yeah, oh my goodness, the crazy parties that these people and the things that would go on at these parties is totally Bohemian Grove level stuff that, it's just like, wow, y'all do some weird stuff, man. Y'all and rich people, Huey Lewis in the News, all of those cats, just just different people that would come in there and the things that they would do. It was just like, so any of the, and I didn't even know at that time about Bohemian Grove and the things that, that they, the elite do. And I was just like, wow, I was blown away. I just graduated college and all of this and, out there in the world and then doing the job. And I was like, wow, man, these people really do this. This is some freaky people. So I look at like all of these cats that get caught in these scandals like Bill Clinton, and his little sex scandal. You look at all of them like that and just go like, yeah, they're doing some freaky stuff, man, out there. But I guess I got off track with it. But, I really wish I had those photographs nowadays, man, to put out there on some of these cats, man, work with the...
Do people be surprised? It's, Gunderson talked about this, the people that are into, like, satanic rituals and stuff, people don't realize how prolific that is. There's doctors, lawyers, judges, police officers, like, people that you would think are hardcore Christians or Jews or Muslims, they're Satanists, and you wouldn't know it from looking at them. You could, because in our minds, because that's what the media, that's what the powers that shouldn't be have programmed through media in our heads. Satanists must all wear black and have black fingernails and have tattoos of upside down crosses on them and stuff. When in reality, they look just like you and me. In fact, they've got the general public so brainwashed that the general public walks around with T-shirts with upside down crosses on them now. Like, the clothes that I see people wearing in public with satanic symbolism and Illuminati symbolism on them, it blows my mind, because when I was a kid, if you walked around with a shirt with an upside down cross on it or 666 or something on it, I don't want to say taboo, but you really would have raised some hell. I mean, there were people that did it, obviously, but still, it wouldn't have been something you saw on the runway or something that you would see in magazines constantly. If you did, it was very few and far between. It was not like it is now. I mean, now it's so mainstream that you see literally, runway models and stuff, and they'll have some dress on that the article or whatever is raving about, and the center of the dress is an upside down cross. I mean, it's like right in your face.
Yeah, something that I found interesting is, what was it, Pope John Paul? As I seen the picture, and I actually went up there and saw when I was overseas. Went up there and seen Pope John Paul II, whatever he was or whatever. But those chairs that the Pope sit in, it's got an upside down cross on it, built in it. It's like it's a big like cement kind of chair, and it's got an upside down cross on it. And and I'm sitting there thinking like, wow, man, that these cats got to realize that's off center. I mean, it ain't up at the top, right? It's down. It's upside down cross. It's got to be. There's something to that. I don't have a clue what. I don't really know, but I did recognize that one thing. But when you're talking about upside down crosses and how this and nobody really recognizes or notices it, pays attention to it, And that's the way things have become. It's like it's like the Chinese and Japanese symbol tattoos that people got. And they don't really have a clue what the heck it says, man. They're taking somebody some charts.
Dude, when we used to do them, we used to make people go down the street. We had a book with kanjis, they're called, in them, and we used to tell people, don't go buy this book. Go up the street and a block up. There was a Japanese restaurant. They did sushi and everything, but they were all Japanese, and we had a deal with them that we would send people over there, but we would tell the people, if you go over, you got to give them $5, whoever translates, and they would make like $5. Sometimes on the weekends they would make $100, $200 off of sending people over there, and they would, depending on how long the translation was, sometimes maybe the person would give them a $20 or $30 tip or whatever for doing it, but they would write things out in real Japanese for us. And people would always say, how come you have us do that? And I'm like, because a lot of these kanji books, they're wrong. They're wrong. I mean, people would, I want this tattooed. Where'd you get it? What is it supposed to mean? It's supposed to mean, like faith. Okay, well, where'd you get it? I found it on the internet. Okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you up the street, and I want you to go get it written out in real Japanese. Why? Because it probably doesn't mean what you think. It probably means like Kung Pao chicken. Okay, And that happened a lot. People would come in and get like the wrong stuff tattooed on them, and then somebody from like China or Japan who would see it would be like, "Do you know what that means?" And they would be like, "What does it mean?" And they would tell them, and they'd be all pissed off. Or if it was Chinese, it would be the same thing. There was a Chinese restaurant that was about a block and a half away, and real Chinese people that spoke, I know there's a couple different versions of it, but they spoke Mandarin Chinese, and that's what they would write things out in. And dude, we would just have them do it that way because people would get like Kung Pao chicken tattooed on them without even realizing it. And we had it worked out that the people at the restaurant weren't dicks, and there were certain people that we would send them to, so they weren't like telling people lies or anything, and they were cool. Right. But there are people that really did stupid things. Anyway, we are out of time. 2 hours goes. Bruce, finally, at the end of the show.
Exactly. What's he doing?
Getting drunk the entire 2 hours. That's where he's been.
Too much sake.
Freaking Bruce. Well, that's all right. He'll be all lit up and primed up for tomorrow night over on Hangar 18. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you tune in to Ken's show 5 days a week. He does a hell of a broadcast. And make sure you tune in tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Hangar 18. Till then, love you all. I'll see you all again live.
Feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole? Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is December 6th, 2013. It is the Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. Joining me here tonight, because this has been a really mellow week. I've been trying to get back into the groove of things after being on the road for 2 weeks. I know it's a little bit confusing, just in case people weren't sure, because I explained this earlier in the week, but perhaps you didn't hear this. When I was on the road, I know it sounded like I was live. I'll let you in on a little secret. I wasn't live. I had prepared the shows. I did about a week and a half's worth of broadcasts off air, and then with the help of Chris Gio, they were uploaded into a queue, I guess you could say, and each night He made sure that the correct one fired off for all of you, and I would double check with him. Normally I'd be able to do it, but because of the crappy internet conditions, Chris Gio came to the rescue, and I have to give him a big round of applause, big thank you, because my JFK specials and stuff wouldn't have gone off at all without his help. So big thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Awesome network over here at Truth Frequency. If you, ladies and gentlemen, ever get a chance to show Truth Frequency some love, feel free to go over to truthfrequencyradio.com, and even if it's only $4 or $5, go ahead and donate. Chris and Cherie are really great people, and they were gracious enough to give me an awesome home, as well as all the other awesome hosts here, and they really do take care of us, so big thanks to them. Anyway, so yes, when I refer to me being on the road for the past 2 weeks, don't be confused that you might have heard me. I wasn't broadcasting from the road. Rather, I made sure that you all had a week and a half's worth of Kennedy specials with tons and tons of evidence and information. And it was important that I get that stuff out there, but it was also important that I went out to Dallas because I was invited to this conference that Judith Baker put together, and I ended up being the MC of the event, and I got a chance to meet a lot of interesting people. Met Wayne Madsen in person, got a chance to meet Nick Redfern. He's been on the broadcast a few times, met him in person, got a chance to meet his dad. I finally got a chance to meet Judith in person. Just a bunch of different people, Bob Groden. The list could go on and on and on. The point is, not only did I get a chance to meet some of these famous researchers, but I also got a chance to meet a lot of my listeners, and everybody I got a chance to meet was just awesome. Anyway, so if you hear me reference Road Trip or anything and you haven't heard any other shows this week, that's what I'm referencing. Anyway, let me get to it. I want to bring up my guest for the evening. So we can hop right into a slew of things, including I want to pick his brain a little bit about some of the things I've already talked about this week. But I want to bring him right up. My good buddy, Mr. Kenneth Webb, a.k.a. Change the Channel. Ken, what's up, brother?
Obama, where you came and you gave without taking. And I sent you away, Obama. When you kiss me, it stopped me from shaking.
What's going on, Popeye? Thanks for having me out, brother.
Leave it to the guys at South Park to provide, audio gold.
Exactly. I thought you were alive, honestly. The whole week for JFK, I was sitting there, I totally thought you were alive. I did not know.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm like magic. Yeah, dude, I was so exhausted by the end because I was doing my regular show, and then I was doing another 2 hours of show off air. And for people that understand, it's way easier when the show is live to do it because it's being recorded. Already, Chris is certain to forget something here and there. So I set up a template so that way I kind of keep a rigid standard.
Right, sound too is a lot on that. I noticed that just like doing videos and stuff like that is if you do a series, how the audio can change. I changed the audio to this, or I changed this. I had my EQ set on this. Whatever it is. A lot of times on the audio for your voice, I noticed that to try to keep a series together, you have to keep a template. Where you can keep the different settings for the audio, so it sounds exactly the same.
Dude, I'll have 15 different tracks where the one track is just for me talking, so that audio is always the same, and then I'll have a track for maybe there's a clip I want to use, but that clip is a different sound level than another clip. So I always try to make that I even the levels out and stuff because there's I don't know, it's not OCD, it's just a pet peeve of mine if someone does crappy audio editing. Mm-hmm. Just something, and video editing too. It's just the way I am, and I'm not some award-winning editor or director or anything. It's just the way I am. Anyway, I want to pick your brain about something. Did you happen to hear when Johnny and I were on the other night, and I was talking about my experience at the USS Alabama?
I didn't catch that part.
Okay, the Alabama is a ship. I'll go over this really quick, and then we'll move on to a few other things, but important issues, because I'm sure the listeners are probably tired of hearing about this. But the USS Alabama, World War II battleship. I stopped on the way back from Dallas. I had wanted to see it, and I wanted, you know how we are. Men are like grown children when you get around something like that. So I wanted to just go, explore it. So it said on their website, long story short, retired military get in for free. So I didn't even expect to get in for free, but I just asked at the front, where you get the tickets to get in. I said, do you guys give a disabled veterans discount? And the woman was just very rude and bitchy when she answered me the way she did. And she was like, no. And I said, really? You guys don't give a disabled veterans discount? I said, it says on your website you give the discount. And she said, well, we give a discount to retired military if you have the retired card or if you're active duty. I said, so if you couldn't do your full 20 years because you got your leg blown off, you don't count? Because now it wasn't about me. Now I was pissed because I was like, that's a pretty effed up policy. Mm-hmm. And she embarrassed me like in front of this line of people with the way she was bitchy to me. So I didn't want to get too combative because I was on vacation, but I got combative enough to ask her 20 questions and get enough info to shame them on air. So the other night I was talking about this, and I said everybody should go to the USS Alabama website, go to the contact page, and email them. Be professional. Don't be rude, but be professional. Tell them that their policy is messed up. I mean, it's a war memorial, and disabled veterans don't even get they let active duty or people that did their full 20 get in for free. But disabled vets don't even get a discount. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Mm-mm. So I was kind of irritated about it, and I don't know. It wasn't really about me. I just thought about how is it? How do you think that these young, like if I felt that way, how do you think these younger guys that don't have the advantage of having the perspective? Maybe not for everybody, but because I'm nitpicky. And I have a certain standard that each show has to meet, or else I'm very strict with my stuff that way. And I spend about 6 to 8 hours per show, like editing wise, recording it, doing the interview, everything. I spend about 6 to 8 hours per pre-recorded show. So it actually takes me like 3 to 4 times the amount of time to do one pre-recorded show.
I can imagine, man, because I can take a 60-second video and I look at it, and what I've gotten in just like with a video now, for broadcasting as far as editing and all of that, I'll take so much time that I'll put into it, but I get to where I can put them out pretty good if it's the same format kind of thing. I'll get used to it, but I'm always looking back and I'm like, man, why didn't I do this, do that, do something else? And I'm like, don't think about it, because the next time you do it, instead of you'll take a 60-second video and you'll take 2 or 3 days sitting there just fine tuning this audio, every single thing. You can really get down into a lot of technical aspects.
I set it up into templates now. So like when I do it, I have on my editor, I actually have my video editor broken up into 2 sections in the timeline. And one side of the timeline is for editing radio shows and archives and stuff. And the other side is for, doing regular video editing. And that's how bad it's gotten. I don't even have enough room in my video editor. When I don't do a certain series for a while, like I've just ran into that. Yesterday, I was sitting there thinking, like, man, I'm going to do a new message from the elite, right? And I was going to, and this all cuts from like presidents, politicians, and stuff that put this message together that, as I see the puppet masters, message being. And I started putting that thing together, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that this takes so long. And I was just like, no way I'm going to be able to do this in a day. I'm going to have to work on this a little bit by little bit, because I go from word to word, each word of a sentence. So it'd take you, 30 minutes to 45 minutes to actually find the clips from a bunch of different presidents, Johnson and Nixon, and like all these different people saying one specific word to chop it together. And it's about 45 minutes it took for just a little intro sentence. I was like, oh man, I forgot how long it takes to do this kind of thing. Yeah. And then like you said, you start to nitpick, like when I put together the one show I did with all the evidence, I was pulling I had all different sorts of audio and stuff, and I wanted to make sure it all flowed and sounded proper. Like some people just don't, they don't care, which is fine. I mean, to each their own. But to me, what started it was actually one of my first interviews I ever did. My first pre-recorded interviews I ever did was with Judith Baker. I had done a few others, but this was years and years and years ago. And after I listened to it, after I had edited it up, I aired it, and there were a few things that I didn't like. And I was like, And it irritated me to the point where I ended up making sure that I set up a template so that none of the things that pissed me off ever happen again. Because what I realized I was going to do is I would do it once, but then I might start recording everything. It's just Ken and I flowing naturally, whatever. And normally that stuff, bam, you blink and the show is over, which will happen tonight. We'll blink and I guarantee you'll be like, holy crap, it's already midnight, right? Over here in the East Coast. For those of you listening on the West Coast and say, it's not midnight over here, just saying. Okay, anyway, it'll go by that fast. When you're like recording a show by yourself off air, it goes much slower. And it takes a lot more time because it's just different. When you're live, your brain is, in a different mode as a broadcaster, as opposed to when you're doing a pre-recorded show. And it doesn't matter how many times you try to convince yourself, no, pretend you're live.
Right.
You're not live, and you know it, dude.
You can't. You're like, that didn't come out right.
Exactly, and you go back and you end up re-recording things. And editing is what takes the most time.
Mm-hmm.
And me, like if I do an off-air interview, like when I interviewed Beverly Oliver, it was over the phone. So I recorded it, right? But she was a JFK assassination witness. So when I interviewed her, I have to go back and listen to the interview in real time. I can't fast forward it and stuff because maybe there's something that, like someone knocked on their door. Sometimes they get another phone call and they have to switch the line over. Whatever the case may be, you edit that stuff out, right? Well, you have to go back and listen in real time because you don't want to miss that little 5-second piece because that's always the thing that you end up hating, right? I should have edited that out. So that's what takes the most time. You have to go back and listen to the whole interview all over again in real time. And dude, anybody that knows me knows that I am the king of doing Charlotte Iserby will tell me, she'll be like, okay, Popeye, I have like an hour. And 2.5 hours later, I'll be like, Charlotte, didn't you only have an hour? And she's like, yeah, but every time I talk to you, I just can't help it. And it's like that with everyone I interview, dude. Judith Baker, 5-hour interviews I've done with her. I just can't interview anybody, it seems, for under like 2 hours.
I know, and that's what I would do especially with an hour show. I remember doing interviews on the hour, and you always have so much doing it, like a special, like me and Grease Rig ended up splitting up a 2-day segment on talking about Iraq, things like that. Because after the first one, it's like you only get so far. It's like, oh man, you need more time. You always need more time on those things. And when you're just sitting there just recording, free thought on an interview, and it could go on and on and on. So you always got to break it down into multiple segments and shows. But like you said, it goes back to that editing, and that's what.
That's the beauty of editing, dude. The magic. That's where it takes the most time. Like if I do, like you coming on, right? Say it was the first time I was having you on, and I was going to interview you, right? We weren't friends, we weren't buddies. We was just, first time I'm ever talking to you. Okay, welcome to the show. Change the channel, blah blah blah. That's still more natural because we're on air live. I don't have to worry about recording it. It's just a flow. But you know what I mean? Like Chris takes care of all the technical stuff, right? So as a host, you can flow a little better and everything. When you're doing a pre-recorded show, it's way different. So yeah, it ends up taking about, I don't know. I guess it's me